I trust that you are well, and I also hope that you are having an amazing day so far. All right, so today we'll be doing our grade 8 lesson on titles. So we're going to be doing our grade 8 English lesson on titles. And before we find out what titles are or the meaning of titles, we are going to log into aplusstudents.ca. And once we've logged into aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we are going to select the subject of language arts. And we scroll to grade 8. All right, so once we have selected our chapter, not even our chapter, once we've selected the subject, which is language arts, we are now at the page where we have the different chapters. We're going to the first chapter, which is titles. We're going to click on the chapter, which is titles. And under the chapter titles, we are going to be focusing on 3 lessons, right? Which is capitalizing titles, formatting titles, as well as formatting and capitalizing titles. So capitalizing titles, formatting titles, and formatting and capitalizing titles. And that is all under the chapter of titles. All right. So now we are going to our first lesson, which is capitalizing titles. So when it comes to capitalizing titles, right? In a title, we capitalize the first word, the last word, and every important word in between. Right? And before we continue on our tutorial page here on aplusstudents.ca, right? Let's go here where we are going to find the meaning of what a title is. And we said we are doing the chapter of titles, and the lessons are capitalizing titles, formatting and capitalizing titles. And all of our lessons and of titles is going to be on aplusstudents.ca. So we are doing our lessons on aplusstudents.ca. So whenever you do want to go back, you can just go to aplusstudents.ca under the chapter of titles, grade 7, and then the specific lessons. All right, so a title is typically the official part of your name placed at the beginning of a significant or a certain status or function, right? And also when it comes to titles, then we can even talk about titles of books, right? And when we talk about titles of books, then it means that there needs to be certain titles that has to be capitalized, right? So there's rules for capitalizing titles. So with titles, it is basically names of books if we specifically talk about the titles of a book, but also with the meaning of titles. A title is typically the official part of your name, placed at the beginning of a beginning to signify a certain status or a function. In this case, we are talking specifically about the titles of a book. So the rules of capitalizing titles, right? So when we capitalize titles, when we capitalize titles, right? And here we have an example of a title, The Last of the Mohicans. And the rules for capitalizing titles or capitalization within titles is that the first and the last words are always capitalized. So there we have the first word that is capitalized. And then we also have the last word that is capitalized. So the first and last words are always capitalized. So with the first word and the last word being capitalized, then also all of the principal words are capitalized. For example, the last of the Mohicans. So last should also be capitalized. So the first and the last word always needs to be capitalized, but also all principal words are capitalized. For example, the last and Mohicans. Also, when it comes to capitalizing titles, right? Then words that are either articles, prepositions, or conjunctions, we do not capitalize it. So, which means that if we look at our title, right, The Last of the Mohicans, the first and the last words are capitalized as well as the principal words are capitalized, which is the last and Mohicans. But of and the article the, so the preposition of in the article the, it is not capitalized. We write it in lower cases. So articles, prepositions, and conjunctions, we do not capitalize it. So words like articles or prepositions or conjunctions, we call them non-principal words. So non-principal words are either your articles, your prepositions, your conjunctions, and they should not be capitalized. And the words that should not be capitalized, we said, is an article. And articles are an, a, and the. So that if you find a, an, or the within a sentence, or not even a sentence, within a title, right, that should not be capitalized. And then prepositions, right? Words such as in, on, by, with, or of, right? We do not capitalize those words. And in conjunctions, words such as and, or, but, nor, for, we should not capitalize it. It should not be capitalized because those are all non principal words. So, non principal words we do not capitalize. Only principled words are capitalized, including the first and the last words within the title should be capitalized. All right, so when it comes to titles, right, then there's a few do's and a few don'ts. We already said don't capitalize your articles, prepositions, or conjunctions, right? So, rules for capitalizing titles. We should or do capitalize the first and last words, which means that you should capitalize the first and last words of a title. Do capitalize other important words, and we call those principal words. So all the other important words, we call that principal words, and we should capitalize those words. Do not capitalize articles, which is a and the. Do not capitalize conjunctions, which is and or but. Do not capitalize short prepositions, which is to, for, in, of, from, on, at, with, by, in, and on. We do not capitalize it. Do capitalize, meaning you should capitalize longer prepositions. So, not shorter prepositions, longer prepositions you can capitalize, such as inside, above, within. And we do capitalize all being verbs, such as am, are, is, was, and were. So we do capitalize all being verbs. And also we should capitalize the word after a colon, dot, dot. We capitalize those words. So these are the rules for capitalizing titles. Now we're going back to our tutorial page, right? And we said in a title, we capitalize the first word, the last word, and every important word in the sentence. And we said we call those principal words. And if we look at an example of words, first words or last words, and every important word that is capitalized, then we have the wind in the willows, James, and the giant peach. So first word, the, last word, peach. And now we also capitalize all the other important words in between, and we call those principal words. We call it principal words. So we say the wind in the willows, James. Of course, willows, James is a name of a person, so it needs to be capitalized. And the giant peach. And there we have our other words, which is in, the, and the. Articles, prepositions, as well as conjunction. Those are words that are not capitalized. And we see that the words that is not important within a title are your articles, your shorter prepositions, as well as your conjunctions. Those are words that are not important in titles. That is why we write that with lower cases and not with a capital letter. We do not capitalize articles, which is a and the. We do not capitalize shorter prepositions such as at, by, for, in, of, on, to, up. And we do not capitalize coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, or. Those are not important in titles. Only the beginning and the last word, as well as all the other words that you think are important words within the title. All right. Which correctly shows the title of a movie? So which correctly shows the title of a movie, right? So they don't basically, yeah, okay, yeah. Is it the Return of the Jedi or Return of the Jedi? Based on what we just discussed, the do's and the don'ts, which correctly shows the title of the movie? Is it the option one, which is underlined in blue, all lower cases, Return of the Jedi, or the underlined in red, the first and the last words are capitalized? And that is correct. The second one, the second one is correct because we said that the first and the last word of a title needs to be capitalized. And of course, if there's other important words within that sentence, and in this case, the title, and in this case, the only thing that is important is the first and the first and the last word, because the words in between, the words like of and the, that is not important within a title. So well done. So which correctly shows the title of a short story? Is it Words for Living By or Words for Living By? We don't need to choose the correct one to show the title of a story. Is it lowercase words for and living by, or second option underlined in blue, which is capital letter words, capital letter living and by? All right, so if we were to choose the correct one, right? Remember, we said that with titles, the first word and the last word of a title is capitalized. And then if there are any other principal words, we also capitalize that one. So which means that we are choosing the second one, which is word for living by. So words for living by is the proper word, right? All right, so we now need to say which words are capitalized. Is it Down by the Bay, which is lowercase down, and only bay is capitalized? Or Down by the Bay, which is capital letter D, the first word of that title is capitalized as well as the last word, Down by the Bay. So we need to choose the correct title of a song. The title of a song. And if we choose the correct title of a song, and then we're going to say it is the second option, Down by the Bay, which is capital letter D and capitalized B. Down by the Bay. So the one underlined in yellow, which is correct, because our first word as well as our last word needs to be capitalized by, the, in, on, or, nor. Those are all words that should be lowercase. All right, we already did that one. Which correctly shows the title of a TV show? The title of a TV show. Is it Pink? Is it Pinky and the Brain? Or is it lower cases, Pinky and the Brain? So we need to choose the correct title of a TV show. Is it Pinky and the Brain, where the first word and the last word is capitalized, or Pinky and the Brain underlined in orange? All right, so in this case, we are choosing the first option, which is in blue, which is Pinky and the Brain, because we specifically said that the first word and the last word of a title needs to be capitalized. Conjunctions, articles, prepositions, those are all lower cases. So well done. And the last one. Which correctly shows the title of a song? The title of a song. Is it Do Your Ears Hang Low? Or lower cases, Do Your Ears Hang Low? So we need to say if one of these are, or which one is basically the title of a song. All right, so if we were to choose the correct title of the song, then we will choose option 1, Do Your Ears Hang Low. Right? So the first one is our title, right? Remember, if you even forget about capitalizing a title, remember that the first word and the last word of a title needs to be capitalized, right? We do not capitalize articles, we do not capitalize prepositions, and we do not capitalize conjunctions. So well done. All right, now we're going on to our test. So which correctly shows the title of a book? Is it option 1, Rain, Shine, or Snow? Or option 2, Rain, Shine, or Snow? We need to choose the correct title of a book. All right, so if we choose the correct title of a book, then we're going to choose option 2, right? Which is capital letter for rain, shine, as well as snow. So we're choosing option 2. So well done. Which correctly shows the title of a play? Is option 1, Big Bad and Little Red, or Big Bad and Little Red? We're choosing now a title of a play. All right, so if we choose the correct title of a play, and then we are going to choose option 1, because remember I said, even if you get all of the in-betweens, right, just know that the first word of a title as well as the last word of a title, it needs to be capitalized. So big bad and little red is correct. Which correctly shows the title of a newspaper? Is it option one, which is News, Sun, and Evening Star, or option two, News, Sun, and Evening Star? We need to choose the correct title of a newspaper. All right, so if we choose the correct title of a newspaper, once again, we are going to choose option one, right? Where our first word and our last word of the title is capitalized. And then we also have our other principal words, which is sun and evening, right? Not our conjunction, not the conjunction over there. And number one is correct. All right, and then which correctly shows the title of a poem? Is it Talk to Animals, option one, or Talk to Animals, option two? Talk to Animals, option one, or Talk to Animals, chapter two? The title of a poem. And if we now choose the correct title of a poem, right, then we are going to choose option two, which is Talk to Animals. Yes. So option two is correct. All right, so that was capitalizing titles. Now we're going to formatting titles, right? So when it comes to formatting titles, the title of a book, the title of a movie, the title of a play, TV show, magazine, or newspaper should be underlined, right? So this is now when it comes to formatting. We first spoke about capitalization and what you need to capitalize when it comes to titles. Now we're talking about formatting, right? And when it comes to formatting, then we say the title of a book, movie, play, TV show, magazine, newspaper should be underlined, right? So it should be underlined. And it should be underlined whether we are typing it or whether we are writing it. So titles of books, movies, plays, TV shows, magazines, or newspapers, it should be underlined, whether we are typing it or whether we are writing it. Or what you can do is you can put it in italics. We can put it in italics. And of course, we only put it in italics when we are typing. So italics is only for when you are typing. And an example is a midsummer night's dream, right? A midsummer's night dream. So if we look at that poem, then we can say that Remember, we underline it, or we can put it in italics. And the title of a poem, song, article, or short story should be in quotation marks. So if we are doing a poem, a song, an article, or short story, it should be in quotation marks. So it should be in quotation marks. For example, you are my sunshine. And there we see it is in quotation marks. There and over there. In quotation marks. All right, so now that is how we format titles, right? And with formatting titles, we have titles of books, movies, plays, TV show, magazines, or newspaper. And it should be underlined or in italics. And titles of poems, songs, articles, or short stories should be in quotation marks. All right, so now we're going to a sentence which correctly show the title of a song. Is it home on the range, or is it home on the range? Because remember, we said when it comes to either titles of poems, to titles of songs, titles of articles, or short stories, it should be in quotation marks. Well done. If you said the one in quotation marks, then that is correct. So well done. All right. Now we need to put a title of a poem, right? Which correctly shows the title of a poem. The title of a poem. Is it The Mountain and the Squirrel, or The Mountain and the Squirrel? This is now a title of a poem. The title of the poem. All right, and if we choose the title of a poem, right? Remember, we said the titles of poems, songs, articles, or short stories should be in quotation marks. So we are basically going to choose, yes, we're going to choose this one, The Mountain and the Squirrel. And it needs to be in quotation marks. All right. And then which correctly shows the title of a play? A title of a play. So the title of a play, is it All in the Stars or All in the Stars? Option 1 or option 2? Let me do this. The blue one or the red one? And this is now a title of a play. And we specifically said a title of a poem a song, an article, or short story should be in quotation marks. Which means that, do we choose option 1 or option 2? A title of a book, movie, play, TV show, magazine, or newspaper should be underlined for typing or for writing, or in italics for typing only. And then a title of a poem, song, article, or short story should be in quotation marks. So in this case, we are going to choose the blue one, right? Because we are not putting it in quotation marks. It is not a title of a poem, a song, an article, or a short story. So we're choosing the first one. Yes. Well done. All right, so now we're going on to our test. So well done. Well done for getting the ones correct so far. So which correctly shows the title of a TV show? Is it Bananas in Pajamas with quotation marks, or Bananas in Pajamas with no quotation marks? We need to choose the correct title of a TV show. All right, so if we choose the title of a TV show, then we're going to say Bananas in Pajamas without the quotation marks, which shows the title of a song. Is it in quotation mark black or white, or no quotation black or white? The title of a song. Is it with quotation or without quotation? Songs with quotation marks, which is black or white, or without quotations. All right, so if we were to choose the correct title that shows the title of a song, and then we are going to go with the first option, which is quoted quotation marks. Now, which correctly shows the title of a newspaper? Newspaper. Is it News, Sun, and Evening Star? Or in quotation marks, News, Sun, and Evening Star? So we need to choose the correct title of a newspaper. Newspaper. News, Sun, and Evening Star. Or option 2 with the quotation marks, News, Sun, and Evening Star. All right, let us choose it without the quotation marks. Let's choose it without the quotation marks. We said if something is not in quotation marks, it must either be underlined or it must be in italics, right? And which correctly shows, so well done to that one. And which correctly shows the title of a magazine. Is it without quotation marks, The Open Road for Boys, or is it with quotation marks, The Open Road for Boys? Is this now without the quotation or with quotation marks? This is now the open road for boys. And remember, we said that if it's not with quotation marks, then it is either we either write it with italics or we underline it. All right, so we can then say when we write the titles of a magazine, let's do it without the quotation marks, either underline or italics. All right, so far we have been capitalizing titles, and we said that certain words within a title needs to be capitalized, which is the first word as well as the last word of a title, as well as the principal words within a title needs to be capitalized. We do not capitalize conjunctions. We do not capitalize short prepositions, and we do not capitalize articles such as a, an, or the, right? Those are things that we do not capitalize. And then when we were formatting titles, right, we also found out, or we learned that there are certain titles that you either put with quotation marks, and then the others that we put with no quotation marks. You either underline it or you write it or type it in italics. So now we're going to formatting and capitalizing titles. So in a title, right, we capitalize the first word, the last word, and every important word in between, and we call that the principal word. And we made an example of the wind in the willow chains and the giant peach, right? There are only certain words that are of importance that we for example capitalize. And of course we must have made mention that articles, short prepositions, as well as conjunctions are not capitalized. So these words are not capitalized. Then we also capitalize titles of books, movies, plays, TV shows, magazines, or newspapers, right? And when we capitalize, or when we write the title for either a book, a movie, a play, TV show, magazine, or newspaper, then it should either be underlined, right? Or we write it in italics, and that is books, movies, plays, TV shows, magazines, and newspapers. And then a title of a poem, a title of a song, an article, or short story should be quoted, should be in quotation marks. So books, movies, plays, TV shows, magazines, and newspapers should either be in italics or underlined, and poems, songs, articles, short stories should be quotation marks. And keeping in mind that the first word of your title as well as the last word of the title and all the other words that are important in titles needs to be capitalized. All right. So now we're going on to questions. Actually, we're going to go on to our test. Which sentence is correct? Tracy read the newspaper. Open quotation. the post and the mail, closing quotation, at the beach. Or Tracy read the newspaper, the post and the mail at the beach. We now need to choose one of the correct sentences. This is to read a newspaper. Is it option one, the quoted title, or option two, the non-quoted title? This is now a newspaper. And if we choose the correct sentence, right, let us choose option two, where we say italics or underlined, right? So newspapers either needs to be in italics or it needs to be underlined when we are typing. So well done. Well done. Which sentence is correct? They read part of a magazine. They read part of the magazine, Oceans of the Mind at the library. Or they read part of a magazine, open quotation, Oceans of the Mind, closing quotations, at the library. So is it with quotation marks or without quotation marks? And the one without quotation marks, we either need to underline or we need to put in italics. So we read the part of the magazine, Ocean of the Mind at the library. The magazine. Do we write it without quotation marks or with quotation marks? All right, so if we now choose the correct one, right? We either need to choose the non-quoted or the quoted ones, right? So then we are going to choose the first option when it comes to the read part of the magazine, which is Oceans of the Mind at the library. And that is correct. All right, so that is now our lesson on titles, right? We said that the chapter that we focused on was titles, and the lessons under titles was capitalizing titles, where we said that the first word and the last word and every other important word in a title needs to be capitalized. Formatting titles, right? Where we got to know which titles are either written with quotation marks or that are underlined or in italics. And then we also had to format and capitalize titles, right? Where we identified literally the combination of titles, capitalizing titles as well as formatting titles. So that is now the end of our lesson on titles, right? Thank you very much, grade 8s, for joining our session of the lesson today. Thank you very much for being interactive. You should have an amazing evening further. Goodbye.